What's going on, you guys? It is your boy, the American Motorsports fan, Eric Ringel here, and we're back with some more rallying videos as I'm reacting to today. Now, this video was suggested several times, so I definitely had to check it out, and it's a guy that we've actually checked out on the channel before. It's Driver61 on YouTube, and he did a video about Group B rally racing. So a lot of people talked about Group B rallying, and it was a time where it was just like balls to the wall. And so Driver61 does kind of a history and when rallying got too fast, and this was during the time of the Group B rally stage. And so I thought, why not check it out? Let's check out what Driver61 has to say, and let's react to this video and see what Group B was really all about in rally cars. So let's get into this video in 3, 2, 1.
The Audi Quattro, Lancia 037 and the Peugeot 205 T16, some of the most iconic names in rallying. Cars that pushed the limits of what was possible in a way that we haven't seen since. It was called Group B and is still held as the golden era of rallying.
Jesus, they were really they were really close there. You had camera guys that were like right there at a corner as a car's coming around. Holy crap.
Group B was a class where manufacturers were allowed to go all out with almost unlimited power, crazy aerodynamics and new exotic materials. It brought about new technologies like four-wheel drive, semi-automatic gearboxes and clever turbocharging systems. However, it was
So basically it was all out, just like not controlled mayhem. Like every team was basically allowed to do whatever they could to develop the most the fastest car without any kind of regulations holding them back. Now that's kind of cool. That's really cool to hear.
Only for the bravest of drivers. The hugely powerful cars needed a lot of manhandling to thread them through the tight, twisty stages, away from huge drops and dodging a sea of spectators. But how did this come about, and what can we learn from the crazy cars that won in the Group B era? Rallying went wild in the 80s. The FIA wanted to attract more manufacturers and so created a class that would give the designers pretty much free rein.
Okay, so it was its own class. Like I'm guessing they had still like the world rallycross cars that like we're used to now, with obviously regulations being involved. But then, like, we had this, where it was just like an all-out developmental race to develop the fastest car, to develop the newest in aerodynamics and stuff like that. Okay, I see.
No power limits, no regulations on boost, and whatever exotic materials you liked. Rally cars over the years have been largely based on road cars, with rules tightening and loosening on how close the relationship has to be between the stock car and the ones that actually race the stage. For example, in the Group A class, the manufacturers have to produce 5,000 road-going versions of the car before it is allowed to compete.
Okay, so that's what we consider rallying now, which is the Group A, which was there's regulations involved. The manufacturers had to have 500 of those cars in circulation, or being built for, I think, the public. And then obviously we'll get into Group B.
In Group B, to lower the costs and interest of manufacturers, they ruled that only 200 cars needed to be produced. Group
200
also allowed almost endless modifications to be made, meaning the rally cars were nothing like the road cars at all. This approach really worked, attracting many manufacturers to Group B, names like Lancia, Porsche, Peugeot, Audi, Toyota, Ford, as well as so many more.
Wow! The amount of manufacturers that were involved in Group B, and like they're all big names. Like it's not like small name manufacturers. Like that's really cool that you had the likes of Ford, Toyota, Peugeot, like big names in the racing industry. Like to have them involved in this, that's that's pretty cool.
Lancia took the Drivers' Championship in the first year of Group B with the 037. It was the last rear-wheel drive car to win in the WRC. It was incredibly light, using fiberglass and Kevlar for the body, and was powered by a mid-mounted 250 horsepower engine. It has much larger wings than many cars of the time, with a huge rear spoiler to stabilize the car at high speeds. It was supercharged to avoid turbo lag, and it was incredibly quick on the tarmac stages. However, it wasn't quite as quick on loose surfaces.
It is amazing because when you look at rally cars now, like you look and there's not a... Compared to this, there's not a lot of aerodynamics that go in with the rally cars that you see today, whereas this, like seeing these massive spoilers, on the back to try to stabilize the car, that's just really, like, it's interesting to see.
In stepped Audi with the Quattro, one of the most innovative rally cars of all time, a true game changer. It had an inline-5 engine with a very clever turbocharging system that produced over 450 brake horsepower. It had a...
Dang, for a rally car to have that much? Like, man, 450 horsepower. Like, you feel like you would want to have... I mean, you would want to have somewhat less, but not much. Like, 450 sounds like a ridiculous number to me for rallying.
Small valve that kept the turbo spooled even when off throttle, meaning there was very little turbo lag, making the car quick out of the tight turns. The Audi also had a very aggressive aero kit with a huge spoiler at the front of the car and an even bigger wing on the back. This was...
I see the big wing. Am I missing the smaller wing? Because he just said something about the front, so I just want to make sure I'm not missing it.
With a huge spoiler at the front of the car and an even bigger wing on the back. This was one of the first sophisticated uses of aerodynamics in rallying. Drivers said it made the car extremely stable at high speed. The insane power was put through a clever semi-automatic gearbox and drove all four wheels. It was the first car to use a four-wheel drive system effectively. Before this, many manufacturers stuck to rear-wheel drive as they thought the additional weight would outweigh any time gains from the extra traction. And yes, the Audi was very heavy, and the four-wheel drive system meant the weight was higher up than you would like in a rally car normally.
One of the things that just got me, and I know I'll try not to stop it too much more, the fact that they ran semi-automatic transmissions. Like, you think now in cars today they have the sports transmissions where you have the paddle shifters, but you can switch between manual and automatic. So it's interesting to hear that was even around back in these days, where you had, semi-automatic transmissions. And we look at it now in racing, like, everybody wants to be able to shift into a particular gear that'll get them, around corners the right way, or, get them going quicker. But, to hear semi-automatic is just, it's weird to hear in racing.
But despite the compromised dynamics, it worked. The Audi had more power than the rest of the field, but could also use it more effectively, deploying more power even on surfaces like gravel, dirt and ice. Audi won its first race with the car and didn't really stop after that. They shaved seconds, if not minutes, off stage times. The Audi four-wheel drive system really changed the game in rallying. But the Audi dominance didn't last long. Peugeot came out with a car that would expose the weaknesses of the Quattro. They used a similar four-wheel drive system but packaged it very differently. Their secret was that they really nailed the car's dynamics. They built the car to...
That scoop on the back there looks weird to me. Like, let me go back just a little bit. That scoop that's right here just looks so weird to see on a car.
Really nailed the car's dynamics. They built the car to look like a 205, a small hatchback. It had a very short wheelbase, which generally makes cars more nimble at low speeds, with the trade-off of less stability at high speeds. However, rally stages are often so tight and twisty that this strategy paid off for Peugeot. They also did everything they could to keep the weight central. They fitted a 1.8 litre engine in the middle of the car, although it didn't have the clever anti-lag system that the Audi did. So the drivers used an old trick to keep the turbo spooled up. They left foot braked for the corners while staying on the throttle.
Wow. So that's where, like, you hear that come from is rallying, using both pedals at the exact same time.
This kept the turbo spooled up and gave them immediate power on the exit. But what was really unusual about the 205 was the orientation they mounted the engine in. Normally, race cars have longitudinal mounted engines with the crank parallel with the direction of the car. However, Peugeot fitted it in a transverse orientation, and instead of mounting the gearbox below the engine like in the Audi, Peugeot mounted it to the side. This meant that the majority of the weight in the car was between the two axles and could be mounted lower, making the car much more nimble and responsive in the corners.
Wow. What development there? I mean, you think about it, you look at even Formula 1 cars now, where the engine, gearbox, everything is more pushed towards the back of cars, and then you've got, your NASCARs, your rally cars of today, where the engines are more up at the front. Like, putting it in the middle, it gives it more, at least to me, it feels like it gives it more stability within the car to be able to handle a lot better on the track. So that's interesting to hear, how Peugeot was able to put the engine and gearbox in the car to where it really optimized the speed of the car and really gave them a leg up on everybody.
It means the car doesn't roll too much, and if it's in the center of the chassis, the car is easier to rotate in the corners. The 205's weight distribution wasn't 50-50 though. It placed around 60% of the weight on the rear wheels.
Still pretty close.
Rearward weight distribution promotes oversteer, and frontward weight distribution creates more understeer. This rearward bias meant the car was easier to turn in and control through the turns. You can really see this if you watch the Audi through the corners. The Audi was very front heavy and produced a lot of understeer. The drivers are trying to neutralize this with the throttle, but they have to correct the car several times through the corner. The Quattro understeers, then oversteers, then understeers again through a turn. The drivers really have to wrestle it through the corner. The Quattro was by no means an easy car to drive.
Just from his explanation, that does not sound easy to drive at all. When you're having to make that many corrections going into a turn, like, that just doesn't sound easy at all.
Look at the Peugeot. There is one smooth input on the steering, and the car looks much more balanced and easy to drive.
Oh yeah.
No wonder it was quicker. It's incredible to watch as these drivers control the car when at crazy speeds on tight and twisty rally stages. Also, not forgetting they are threading the car through a sea of spectators on the stage. But why are the fans allowed to be so close to the cars?
That's what I've been asking myself ever since the last video I recorded about rallying. Why would they be allowed so close? Please let there be a decent explanation to this.
The stages are public roads, meaning anyone could go and spectate. However, it meant that many got extremely close to the cars. Back then, people did get hit, but it was considered to be part of the challenge for the drivers. They often kept it pinned and had to hope that the fans would get out the way in time. This guy even had to jump over a passing car. Many manufacturers understood that Peugeot's approach was the way to go, all producing smaller, short wheelbase cars with all the weight in the middle. MG created the Metro with a distinctive boxy shape and a huge front wing, and the Renault 5 took a similar approach too.
Wow.
However, it was Lancia that did it the best. They finally scrapped rear-wheel drive after being uncompetitive all year, so they created the Lancia Delta S4, a short wheelbase four-wheel drive monster.
It's amazing how, just looking at these cars, you see that as you progress, the hatchback car takes more of it basically makes itself the car of rallying. They tried with regular cars, but then they moved to this this hatchback idea, and I think it's really it's amazing to see, just in racing how that's changed.
Firstly, they developed an engine with a genius twin charging system. They fitted a supercharger to avoid the lag of a turbo, a bit like the Lancia 037. However, this created less power at high revs. As a supercharger is directly driven by the engine, it can provide boost at low revs, but saps more and more power as the revs climb. So what Lancia did was fit an additional turbocharger that would provide boost at high revs.
So they had a turbocharger and a supercharger. Holy shit.
So low-end boost was provided by the supercharger before cutting out and letting the turbo take over at higher revs. This meant the Delta S4 was amazingly powerful and had the grip to put it down onto the stage. It took many wins before eventually bringing the Group B era to a close. This era of rallying was amazing to watch. Incredibly fast cars and amazing drivers all pushing to the limits of what's possible. There were different winners every year and cars that looked remarkably different with incredible engineering. However, you can't ignore the fact that it was extremely dangerous. The cars were too powerful, difficult to drive and not...
Well, yeah, I mean, I understand to a certain extent that they were too powerful, but I think that's what, motor racing is all about, is the development of engines to make them much, much faster. And I feel like this could have survived had they maybe changed, some of the, how spectators viewed the sport, and, being able to, evolve the racetracks itself and to find racetracks that would have been able to fit this car. I feel like that this could have been around for quite a while.
Enough emphasis was put on the safety of drivers and spectators. The biggest issue was the minimum weight rule. Cars could weigh as little as 890 kilograms. So competitive manufacturers would do anything they could to get this limit down. This created a breed of cars that were very fragile and not up to the job of protecting drivers in a crash. Many of the drivers explained that if this weight limit was higher, more strengthening could have been added to better protect the drivers in a crash.
So okay, so there's another very good reason that they could have saved the sport a little bit. I get that was the whole thing about Group B, but like if you would have been able to, add a little bit more protection, be able to change the safety of tracks in general and where fans were, I feel like this sport may still be around. I mean, we still got rallying, but...
In Portugal, Santos crested a rise in his Ford RS200. He lost control and went off the course, horrifically injuring 31 spectators and killing 3. All the teams...
And that was what I was afraid of, is unfortunately crashing into spectators and killing them. That's kind of where I thought that was going.
He pulled out of the rally and it left Group B hanging on by a thread. A few months later, the final blow came. Lancia's Henri Toivonen was the championship favourite when he lost control late in a fast turn. He was winning by a huge margin when he and his co-driver Sergio Cresto came flying off the road, heading down a steep hill. The impact ruptured the fuel tank, spilling fuel over the red-hot turbocharger, sending the car up in flames. After the incident...
Oh my God. Like, oh my God. That is awful. That, I feel so horrible for them. Man.
It was barely recognizable as a car, and both Henry and Sergio were killed in the crash. This led to many manufacturers pulling out, and the FIA ended the Group B class the following year. You should watch this video where I explain what it takes to modify a rally car to set the outright record at Pike.
Wow, like that's kind of a downer to end it, is just knowing that that's kind of what ended the sport, was, going off of a cliff like that and just having the car just absolutely engulfed in flames. Like, that's just, man, But I mean, it's just amazing, though, the developments that Group B made to cars to really kind of put themselves out there as, you know, the cars to basically beat within the rallying world. But let me know what you guys think of Rally B, Group B. I'm going to be reacting to more Group B. It looks really, really awesome, as we've already reacted to one rallying video. We're going to react to more on this channel as we go on. But guys, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Guys, as always, please hit that like button. It pushes this video out to more and more rallying fans, more and more motorsports fans. So let's hit that like button and help push it out there. And guys, if you are new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. It helps me out immensely. We're almost to 600 subscribers, and we're well on our way to 1,000. So hit that subscribe button if you guys are new, so that to help me out to get to 1,000 subscribers. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. And guys, for the American Motorsports Fan, I'm Eric Ringel, signing off.